Hey, everybody, it's time for episode 265 of the 3 Point Podcast presented by Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center and Skymint Cannabis. Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center, well, they got swimming lessons underway for children. Give them a call, 989-720-7081, and get in line for the next available lessons. Included in your membership, the use of locker rooms, private showers, steam rooms, sauna, lap pool, a whole lot more. Just a great, great spot. For more details, follow them on Facebook at Memorial Wellness Center or get more info online at memorialhealthcare.org. Also, we're tied into the great folks at Skymint Cannabis, farm to stash, grown right here in the Great Lakes State, over 20 locations and counting. Check out the Skymint Reserve. Also, check out Michigan's best bundles for deals on flower, vapes, pre-rolls, edibles, and extracts. Ounces as low as $49. Gift cards are available. That's Skymint.com if you want more info. Also, thanks to our local partners. They include AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, CR Auctions, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille. And as they want to mention, it's beautiful weather. The patio is now open. What a great spot to go chill out on a great spring, summer evening. And also thanks to the good folks at Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. But let's play a little catch up. Before we do, I'm just going to put Jared on the spot. Jared, tremendous 5 Emmy nominations for some of your video work at Bally Sports. Congratulations. I know you poo-pooed it a little bit, but that's really very cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, work with some awesome people who give you the opportunity to do stuff like that and obviously help you along the way. So hopefully we can get a couple wins. I know it's I think it was 65 or 67, one of those two. It's the most ever Bally Sports Detroit or Fox Sports Detroit's ever had. So
right.
It was a good day at the company all around.
I bet.
Yeah, those things, it's always nice. I know we talked last time off air about this industry, and you don't always get the kudos that you deserve because it's always just, the news is always changing. You do something one day and you're on to the next game or the next event or, whatever. So this is the payoff. Sometimes, Emmys, is it like that? Is it like an Academy Award? Maybe, no, maybe not. But it is really cool to get those things up on your shelf and get that payoff of like, okay, cool, my hard work's being noticed. So, I mean, there is a little bit of politics involved because, they do try and, I don't know, grease the palms of the right people, that kind of thing. And like you said, it all comes down, like if you don't submit your stories, then they're not going to get nominated. So, sometimes I just remember people saying some of the very best stories just didn't get nominated because they didn't get submitted. Right. So sometimes that comes into play. But no, what it comes down to is you put in the work, you put in the nominations or you put in the submissions and you got nominated. So hopefully you at least get one.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's something that like you put it up on your shelf or, whatever you want to do. The weird thing is you have to pay for them. So that's kind of the trophy. So you have to buy it. That's just kind of
not a bad problem to have. Hopefully we have that problem.
But right. That's something you can put on your resume forever. Emmy winner. If you win one.
Absolutely. And, and there might be a little politics involved in it, but I remember, I did it one time. I applied. This was like in the late 90s. The station management wanted me to submit, recording of play-by-play that I did. And, what was pretty cool is we submitted it to 2 different groups, the Michigan Association of Broadcasters and the AP. And, I felt I was pretty good at that time, but who knows? And what they do is it's complete strangers, just listening to your tape, right. And lo and behold, first place. And I did it one time. I said thank you and got the heck out of there, but got a couple nice pieces of hardware for it. So yeah, it's a good feeling, man. It's nice to know that your work gets appreciated, especially from people that don't have any clue who you are. I think that's what the coolest thing is on these panels.
So 1991 was kind of like that was your pinnacle as a broadcaster. That's when it all came together.
No, 98 probably. It was I was 42, in the sweet spot of knowing what I was doing. But I will say this, even though I've retired, I think last year I don't think I missed too much. I think I went out on top. So what the heck.
Well, and you got to do some cool games. Corona kind of having a good football season, and you got to call some some big playoff basketball games and stuff too, and
right.
and playoff football games too. So you got to do the last couple of years. The area teams have been nice to you, giving you some good teams to, like you said, kind of go out on top. But
well, that's what I always say, and it's so true. Games make the broadcast, man. When you're in a dud of a game, it's pretty tough to sell it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if you got a good game, a good playoff game, or a state championship, even if I think back to New Lothrop when they played Madison Heights, Madison, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. I mean, it was like 51-48, something like that. Just a crazy, wild game, man. But anyway, congratulations, Jared. Good luck in the. Are you going to go to the dinner, the banquet?
TBD. It's TBD. There's some things up in the air, so it's to be decided. But most likely, yeah. So this was on Saturday that I found that out. Saturday wasn't all that great of a day outside of that. So as you guys know, we had graduation for my girlfriend Liz.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Muskegon, and I think I almost witnessed the brink of civilization turning to mass chaos. I kid you, dude. I wish I could have done a live recording right after it. I almost texted you guys. So we get there at noon, which is when the grads are supposed to be dropped off, and it's supposed to start at 1. Get there, nowhere to park. First off, it's a 2-hour drive, so that just add that boil that into the story is how I'm kind of already a little bit
real quick. Where was it at in Muskegon? Was it at like a football stadium?
Muskegon Lumberjacks hockey arena.
Okay.
Ooh. Kind of a cool little spot. Honestly, I always liked it when I would have to go there for Fox 17. But anyway, so we get there, and there's 2 lines. So imagine like your typical arena. You know how they have like usually 4 entrances with 10 doors at each entrance. This place literally had 1 door open on each side of the complex. So 1 physical door, not like 10 doors at one entrance, 1 door. So it's a line. You get there. I'm standing there for probably 20-30 minutes. Haven't moved. It's hot as hell. It's like 80 degrees. Sun's right on you. I'm wearing dress clothes, so that doesn't help. Everybody in the line is like asking the same stuff. Which line is it to get in? Is it this line? Is it that line? Should we get in this line? And I'm just like slowly my blood's starting to boil. So we're sitting there.
Literally
30 minutes go. It doesn't move. Everyone's kind of wondering what the hell is going on. How could this why is there even a line? How does that they're not charging for tickets? There's literally no reason there should be a line. Finally, some guy, I seriously think they had maybe 3 security people running this event. Some security guy walks out. Of course, he stops right in my ear. So when he's yelling, it's just blowing my eardrums out. He's yelling how, we're winding everybody down. We didn't expect everybody to come at once. And I'm just sitting there thinking, you didn't expect everybody to come at once. When were they going to come? Noon when they were dropping off their grads? In no sense. So finally, another 40. At this point, it's 12:50. I've been waiting for 15 minutes in this line. Finally, it's like 12:50. Finally, as soon as I get to the front of this door and I can see them wanding people in and checking bags, that's what was taking so long. Wanding every person and checking every single bag. They just said, screw it. You're all going in. So everybody it's all of a sudden it turns into World War Z where all the zombies are climbing over each other and everyone rushes into this place. And this hockey arena, it's like a minor league hockey arena. So it's really not that big. Basically, it has a lower bowl and that's about it. And it's got a lot of sort of suite type seating up around the top, but all that was locked out because I guess they technically don't own it. So literally it's like a mass chaos trying to find a spot to sit. I get in there. I literally walk down a few different rows, looking around, trying to find seats, nowhere to sit, walk back up. Of course, during this whole time, it's like there's some Prince playlist on the speakers. So it's literally, I kind of laughed at myself at one point. I circled this entire place during the song Purple Rain, which I think is like a 10-minute song. So think about 10 minutes. I'm trying to find a seat and it's just blaring probably 5 notches too loud. So you kind of can't hear yourself think in this arena. Finally, I just said, screw it, man. I'm going to stand in this aisleway and sit on these rock hard steps and watch this thing. So now it's 1:15, 1:20. They finally are bringing the grads out. So it's already behind schedule. I'm sitting there I'm losing it. I'm kind of getting stir crazy as I'm sitting here. I can't see anything. It's one person at a time. They got 3 speeches. Finally, I'm like, you know what? Screw it. And I kind of felt like an idiot doing it. But behind the stage, there was nobody sitting. because you couldn't see anything. I'm like, you know what? Until my girlfriend's name is about to get called, I'm about to just go sit behind this stage where I can't see anything. And people are going to look at me like I'm an idiot. But, dude, I can't do this. I'm literally standing here. So I walk the entire arena, go sit over there, wait until it's about a row before my girlfriend's called, go back to the spot, and watch from there. But it just
Good strategy.
reinforced in my brain the whole time. I'm thinking, I hate graduations. It is a money grab. I don't understand them. If it was me, I would just have like a cookout or something with my family. I think that's actually what I did, and celebrate it that way. But it's still, obviously, it's a cool moment. You know, you see people crying. So
Right.
I'm speaking out of two sides of my mouth. Like, it's obviously a really cool moment for some people, but my God, if I could have the person who organized this graduation event on this pod, you know what? We could slide him right into the prep spotlight. I would interview him tomorrow because I have no idea what the hell is going on with the planning of this thing. Ted, if I had dropped you into this, man, I don't know what you would have done. There's probably like 5 or 6 live tweets you would have had on this event.
He would have went up to the mic and started emceeing the thing and been like, all right, let's get this a little more organized. That's what it mostly sounds like. I know you already don't like graduations, but then you add to it that it sounds like this was pretty poorly planned. So that just adds to how much you don't like graduations. The whole door thing, that's kind of interesting. I wonder, like we didn't expect everyone to show up at once. Well, there was one time to show up. Everyone was going to show up at the same time. That's kind of interesting.
I kid you not. The line did not move. It didn't move for 30 minutes. I went from like, probably 100 people out to 75 people out over the course of 30 minutes. I don't know if they would have not just said, screw it, we're letting everybody in. I don't think the graduation would have ever happened.
It's just that it's a shame too. Like I was thinking when you mentioned about checking bags.
Yeah.
That's just the world we live in now. Any event you go to, amusement parks, at Disney, whatever you're doing, concerts, you got to go through a security check. But to think that like you're going to a graduation and they feel like they need to, look through everyone's bags and make sure no one's bringing in anything dangerous. It just made me think like I'm wearing a old school Pine Knob shirt. I was going to ask Ted, do you remember when security checks became a thing? Like where it was like, obviously you probably don't remember an exact date, but right. Do you remember going to Tiger Stadium or going to the Silver Dome or something? Do you remember like about when security checks became a thing? Because I remember my parents telling me stories of the first few Bob Seger concerts or other concerts that they went to. The place in Davison? It was a forest. It was
Sherwood Forest.
I remember them telling me stories about going to concerts there where it was basically like in a field or in a barn basically, but they said like there would just be tables set up of cups of beer already like poured or cups, whatever the drinks were, and you would just walk up and grab them, and that's what you would do. Can you imagine? There's no way something would be like, because you'd be worried about people spiking it or like what's in this drink. And then obviously you have to pay for everything nowadays. But so that with the security check thing, you Jared mentioning the security check at a graduation, it just made me think like, when did this be? I know people probably point to 9/11 is probably
that was it.
A big date, but you got to get your stuff checked everywhere now. Everywhere you go, you got to get your bags checked.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably been about 20 years, and you hit it right on the head. It was 9/11. That's when the world changed, and definitely changed in that respect. Hell, I remember you talk about your parents going to Sherwood Forest. I remember going to Pine Knob. You could carry your damn cooler right in there and put it right next to you up on the hill, filled with beer.
That's crazy.
Times were different for sure, but yeah, it is sad, and I thought the same thing you did, that they're checking you wherever you go nowadays, and that's the world we live in. And man, we could do a whole pod on our thoughts on that, but we'll keep this one kind of light. I did want to say though, Jared had the experience from hell at the graduation. I actually had a lot better thing. My granddaughter's dance recital.
Oh, right.
And they had this down. A lot of people would think, oh man, how boring can that be? But each little group had their song they danced to, and from the time we got in there to the time we got out, and this is after watching all the other little kids do their dances, it was an hour, 1 hour in and out, man. It was awesome. It was really good. It was really special to see little Parker, up there, and we all did the obligatory, hand her a little bouquet of flowers afterwards. The routine. But yeah, we had a great time, and they had that thing running really, really good. So kudos to them down at Clawson High School, the dance group down there.
Nice. I feel like that's something that they've had to come a long way with the dance recitals.
Yeah,
because if your kid that you're going to watch happens to be the last act, they don't want you sitting there for 3 hours through a bunch of kids that you don't even know. So, quick, get it moving, get the kids on, get the kids off, get the songs going. That's cool.
I like the song they danced to, the Napoleon Dynamite intro song where all the food's getting shuffled around. I don't even know what it's called, but that's what I think of when I hear it.
Yeah, it was very cute. So we had a great time, and it was definitely a great grandparent day. All the grandparents were there for it. So had pizza from Buddy's afterwards. Can't beat a good Detroit style Buddy's pizza. That's for sure. You can appreciate that, right, Jared?
Yeah, that's like it's funny that you use that's like saying like Michael Scott Sabaro when he goes to New York by saying Buddy's Detroit. So yeah, you nailed it, man. That's a Detroit style pizza for sure.
I think they're the original. But,
I mean, Buddy's. I get what you're saying, Jared. Buddy's is like one of the original Detroit styles. It's crazy how big Detroit style has become. I've had to explain that to quite a few people actually, because a lot of the chains now. Papa John's, Pizza Hut, a lot of the chains are putting out a Detroit style pizza.
They are, yeah.
And just a number of coworkers or friends, who aren't from Michigan or whatever, have asked, is that what is Detroit style pizza? Is that even a thing? Usually you just hear Chicago, New York, stuff like that. But
right,
I don't know. I love Detroit style, and maybe a little bit of bias to being from Michigan, but I think Detroit style might be my favorite.
It's not my preferred slice, but I will say it's good. But I think with Detroit style is there's a lot more variance when you get it. It'll either be really good or I feel like they can easily miss the mark and it's too doughy or they don't have enough sauce. So I think it's a little bit more of a risk reward order when you go with the deep dish Detroit style.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of between the regular traditional and the Chicago style deep dish. But, the thing that sets all good Detroit style pizzas out for me is how they do the crust. If it's crispy to perfection, man, I'm all in. That's my stuff. I love it.
A little crunch on the side. You can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong.
I want some Detroit style pizza now.
Me too. Breakfast pizza. All right. Well, we are recording this on what day is this anyway? Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning. We just had the NBA draft last night, so we're going to talk a little NBA and the draft and how the Pistons did right after this. All right. How depressed were you sitting there watching the draft, and then that fifth pick came up, and it's our Detroit Pistons?
The draft lottery.
The lottery,
I mean, it's one of those things where it just seems like, there's a whole hashtag or whatever it's become now. It's become a whole slogan, Detroit versus everybody. And it gets used almost a little too much to me. Like everyone acts like everything is against Detroit, no matter what it is. It does seem like Detroit, when it comes to these draft lotteries, it's happened to the Red Wings recently. It did kind of this year. And especially with the Pistons, always get the short end of the stick when it comes to the lottery. I don't know what it is. I mean, they won it, when they were able to draft Cade Cunningham a couple of years ago. So, we can't say it never happens, but they were one of 3 teams this year with the highest odds to get the number 1 pick. And obviously this year, Victor Wembanyama is the pick, franchise changer. People are even saying he's the best NBA prospect ever, even, bigger than LeBron, and some other ones. He is just a player coming out of France that people are saying the minute he is a part of your franchise, changes your franchise. So everyone wanted the number 1 pick. The first time ever that a team with the best odds fell to number 5 and is the Pistons. So it's one of those things when it was, you're watching it and they're revealing all the teams, it gets up to 7, 6. You're like, okay, feeling good. Right. And, they've got the top 4. That's kind of the prize. You want to be the top 4. And of course, number 5, and boom, that logo you've got on your hat right there, Ted. The Pistons logo shows, and I was just like, of course. Because this is a year. There's actually, this draft is pretty good with the NBA. You know, definitely the top 3. Top 3 are like the guys that are going to be stars. There's 3 guys they're going to be the top 3 picks. They're very, very good. From about 4 to 8, 9, 10, there are some good players. It's just the NBA draft. You have no idea. It's such a crapshoot. So of course, that's where the Pistons landed. They're going to get a guy that has some potential, but is he going to be a changer for the Pistons? Not like one of those top 3 guys would have been. So yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, of course, this is what happened to the Pistons.
It sucks, man. I'll just say this though: the lottery. A lot of people say, let's get rid of it. It's so stupid. Number 1 team. I feel like this might be what Ted says. Number 1 team should just get it. I loved watching it. I mean, what the drama was incredible. When Detroit came up, God, it seemed like it came up it seems like that moment took like 10 minutes to develop by the time they were pulling it out of the envelope to the time it was on the screen, man. You just had a bad feeling about it. I had a bad feeling all day. It's something about being a Detroit fan. I just saw a stat. It's, Pistons, Red Wings, and Tigers worst record in their respective leagues last 5 years. It's been a brutal stretch. The worst of probably our lifetimes with a lot of these teams all at the same time. I mean, the Red Wings have been good for so long that it is probably the worst stretch ever. Yeah. And this was the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, obviously it's only a 14% chance at best, but you kind of convince yourself, you really think like you have a chance at this damn thing. Yeah. And it just sucks, man. I mean, you look at the Spurs, like they just get like, how many times can they get rewarded with these generational players? Tim Duncan, David Robinson, and now Wembanyama, where it's like the Pistons, have been stuck in this kind of perpetual, state of not being very good, and we just can't seem to break through. And that's what Wembanyama would have done. The reason it really sucked so much is not only that Wembanyama is a good player, is for once in my life, the Pistons would have been that national spotlight, national games. Everyone would have talked about him. Everyone wanted Wembanyama to go to Detroit. They thought it was the perfect spot for him to join, Duren, who a kind of a bigger center who can take a lot of the blows, who's the same age as him. Cade, obviously, Ivy, 2 good guards. He would have fit in perfectly. Yeah. And now we just got to watch Wembanyama's career as he, parachutes into superstardom, and we just have to sit there and remember that should have been our guy. Yeah. And it just sucked, man. There's so many, it's such a sliding doors moment for everybody, for me, for the Pistons organizations, for us fans, for the team, everything. And it just couldn't have gone worse.
And it just feels like, too, I know, Ted, you're going to jump in.
No, go ahead.
It feels like, because they have a coaching vacancy right now. The Pistons don't have a head coach. And so it just feels like, so you miss out on the draft lottery, getting a top 3 pick, because like I said, those top 3 players, I think they're all going to be very good. Again, NBA draft, you never know how it's going to play out. But when Wembanyama might flame out, who knows? But those top 3 picks are what you wanted. They miss out on that. I have a feeling they're going to make some wild hire at head coach. And you've got all those players you just listed, Jared, that there is potential there. And I just feel like they're going to miss the boat on all of this. They're missing on Wembanyama. They're going to make some stupid hire at head coach that's going to ruin Cade, Ivy, Duren, and we're going to be stuck in this, purgatory of hopefully not in the bottom of the Eastern Conference, but just not rebuilding. I know a lot of Pistons fans are very optimistic about those guys that we keep listing, but if they make a bad hire at head coach, it's not going to matter,
And it's just, I don't know where they go. The Wembanyama was the last piece. If you get a Wembanyama, it's like this team with Cade and Ivy, Wembanyama. I mean, let's start thinking finals in the next 5 years. Now it's like we're still in this rebuild. It was a rebuild ender for the rest of Ted's lifetime. He's gonna be able to watch Wembanyama, and hopefully a little bit after he hangs it up. But
good save.
But when did it hit you guys? Like, Ted, I mean, where were you at? Were you thinking that this was going to be Detroit Piston at the end of the night, or were you not did your hopes not get as high as mine?
No, I mean, I had a feeling they wouldn't get the number 1. My gut feeling was they would get number 2 and miss out by 1 pick.
Right.
But A couple thoughts that I just don't like. I've already been on record. I don't like the lottery, period.
Yeah.
I mean, if teams are going to tank, hey, so be it. They're tanking now. I mean, look at a team like the Pelicans. They tanked because they finished 42-40, but they, at the end of the year, they wanted to make sure that they didn't get into playoffs for some reason. And they could have had that number one choice at 42-40. So
Right.
if you're gonna still continue with the lottery, they got to do some adjustments. It shouldn't be, first of all, 14 teams in it, maybe 3 or 4, maybe. And then whatever happened to the days when the ping pong balls came up? That drama. It was a stupid presentation to me. I thought.
I don't remember when the ping pong balls went away. It's been a few years, but it does make it seem a lot more rigged. I don't think it's rigged, like a lot of fans do. But not being able to see how this happened does kind of make it like, well, how did you come up with this? Did you guys just decide that you wanted the Spurs to be number one? Because at least the ping pong balls made it feel like it was a lottery,
Exactly.
The Pistons would have had more balls in there than the Pelicans or some of these other teams. So they had a better chance to get the number one pick. This just feels like you're just making it up as you go. And the lottery, I get what we've gone over it. Everyone knows this. The intention is to try and avoid tanking because, you don't want to tank your season away and still like miss out on a top 5 pick or whatever. You're kind of wasting your season. But, so the intention is to avoid tanking. I think you floated it out, Ted, or, other people have. They have the play-in tournament now to get into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Why not have the bottom 8 teams play a little basically lottery tournament? And awesome. they're playing a couple extra games at the end of the year for the play-in tournament. Why not have the bottom 8 teams, so maybe you tank to get into that bottom 8, but then you have to win to get that first pick. Play a little tournament and say, hey, if you want the number one pick, you can't tank your way to the number one. Now you got to win to get that number one pick. I think maybe shave 4 games off of the regular season, so you can do something like that. But that would, to me, that way it's one on the court. It is one on the court. Woo. The Pistons at the end of the year, they were playing okay. Obviously they weren't playing that good, but they were playing okay. They could have put a team out there and tried to win, the number one pick. But this just seems like, it almost seems like, because Popovich, sorry, Jared, I know you're trying to jump in.
No, you're fine.
Popovich is there, obviously a legend, one of the best coaches ever, and the Spurs haven't been good for a few years. It just feels like it was, let's give Pop and the Spurs Wembanyama. It just, they've had Boris Diaw from France. They've had Tony Parker from France. You mentioned Tim Duncan, David Robinson. It just, it's one of those things. It just feels like it was like, Popovich and the Spurs haven't been good for a few years. Let's hook them up. Let's give them Wembanyama. But
yeah, whatever. I will say if he wasn't going to go to the Pistons, if I had to pick a second team, it would have been probably the Trailblazers once they were like somehow up in the possibility of getting him. Apparently they were only 1 number away from getting the number 1 pick when they pulled out the lottery balls and behind the closed doors and the vault or whatever the process is. But that would have been cool. But Spurs, I mean, it'll be fun to see him with Popovich, however long Popovich keeps coaching. But as far as your tournament, I like it. I think maybe what it would be the bottom like 4 instead of the bottom 8, where it's a little bit more of the actual like worst teams, whereas a team that barely missed playoffs, let's say it's like the Mavericks or something like that, wouldn't be able to go in there and just like unleash Luka on it and get Wembanyama or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just sucks, man, when you're the team that gets the short end of the straw. Everyone else basically got what they expected, outside of the Spurs and the Rockets kind of flip of a coin, but just sucks, man. I don't know where we go from here now. This was kind of our goal for the last 2 years, being Pistons fans, was like, let's get this guy. The day comes, it goes. It was over within a blink, and now it's like, where now?
Because that's the thing, that the guys that are at like I said, the 4 to 10, in that range of the NBA, for the draft picks, they're all like the same player. They're all, they're all like 6'5" to 6'8", 6'9", wing, the classic. That's what the NBA is anymore. Guys who can handle the ball, guys who can shoot. there's no one like a Wembanyama that's, a 7-foot center, someone like that, or like a really, really good point guard that's going to come in and solidify the team or something. It's all just these stretch wing players that are athletic and can play a little bit. So it's like, okay, hopefully one of them turns into a really good player, like you said, to go with Cade and Ivy. But a big part, they got to make the right hire at head coach. They got to make the right hire.
Well, they do, and their only hope now is maybe to go the Laker plan. Maybe revamp that roster somewhat, keep your key players. I mean, look what the Lakers did after the start of the season. I mean, yeah, they lost last night, but they made a heck of a comeback, could have pulled that win off.
Yeah.
And, they're in the Final Four. Are they that much better? I mean, they do have two superstars, obviously, but isn't that the way Detroit has to now look at it with Troy Weaver?
Well, that's what sucks about the NBA, man, is it's like it's impossible to lure these free agents to Detroit. It's been impossible. It's not impossible for the Lakers. They do it every offseason. The Clippers, even, they do it every offseason. The teams in New York, same thing. That's why this was a once-in-a-lifetime night that you could have passed on to your grandchildren, Ted, in a few years on where you were when the Pistons landed Wembanyama. And now it's just another, kind of doom and gloom day you just want to forget. Yeah. And I'm sick of these days. There's just no end in sight. And that's what's so frustrating about building a contender. I mean, even think about like the Sixers, how, they nailed, quote unquote, the trust the process picks and Embiid. They got an MVP out of it. And yet you look at their team and you're like, they're still so far away from ever winning a title. It's like they got to revamp this whole team to even compete. And it's those narrow margins where, yes, the Pistons, I think, will still have something to build and something to show for it in a couple of years, but it's like you kind of just need a guy like that to really get you over the hump.
Well, they kind of nailed the picks because they also drafted Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz, and those were two of the worst draft picks ever. But
they put Simmons into Harden, so
right. But that's what I was going to say. So they did hit on the one. They hit on Embiid, so they were able to lure Harden. They got like Tobias Harris and some other big free agents. So that's what it takes. Same with the Nuggets. The Nuggets drafted Jokic. They drafted Murray. Okay, now guys want to go play with those players. Aaron Gordon and Caldwell Pope and Bruce Brown, like these other players. You got to hit on some of these draft picks. If Cade Cunningham and Ivy turn into at least one of them an all-star, players, then maybe some of these other free agents will be like, all right, cool, let's go there. You got to get a good head coach too that players want to go play with, so you just got to hope some of these draft picks turn into good players. And it's just such a crapshoot and sucks that those top three players in this draft looks like it's going to be those kind of players, and the Pistons are going to miss out on them. Because a team like the Lakers, they can go out and sign go out and get LeBron, go out and get AD. They always have the money. They always, can get guys to go to LA. So Detroit's got to do it through the draft. And I don't know. It's
and that's what makes this lottery. It's like, man, like at best, you're only going to have a 14% chance at that number one pick. Right. And more than, obviously, 10 times more than the NFL. It's like that number one pick is everything.
Right.
Like almost always there's that one guy. So
it's depressing for sure, but what are we going to do? Let's just keep our fingers crossed. Like Matt said, they get the right coach, that number 5 pick. Maybe they make a deal and trade. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Because you got to think like, someone like James Harden, he's a free agent.
Right.
You think there's a couple other guys. You think there's any chance someone like he would go to the Pistons? Even if they offered him the most money, no one at this point where it sits right now, a big name free agent is not going to Detroit.
Well, that's what sucks,
unless 100% for the money, unless they offered the most money and that's all they, want.
And that's like, well, just think about like Blake Griffin. It's like when we offered him all that money, everybody knew it was dumb, but you had no other way to get him to say, I'm going to stay in Detroit than to give him that max deal. Right. So it's, and just ironically, on the next topic, man. It's just I don't know. I mean, it's just now it's like we'll be probably right in the same spot in a year. Hoping and praying that the lottery balls will fall in our favor, man. It's annoying that's what you have to put your hope in.
Right. Well, before we move to prep spotlight, any quick thoughts on the Final Four in the NBA? The Celtics and Heat will tip it off tonight, and as I mentioned, the Lakers in Game 1 came back from a big deficit, just came up a little bit short down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Lakers, I feel like in the second half they maybe figured something out. Jokic is incredible. No one's going to stop him. Even someone as good as Anthony Davis defensively, you're not stopping him. It's just the way that he's playing right now, passing, rebounding, shooting, everything. But they kind of switched up their lineup a little bit. They brought in Rui Hachimura, who can, has some size and can defend. So that way AD doesn't have to defend Jokic the whole time. He can kind of help and, guard someone else. Because AD had an awesome game too. He scored over 40 points and he had a double-double. And LeBron played really well. Austin Reeves is playing awesome. So Austin Reeves is a guy that's going to be a free agent. He's going to be asking for a lot of money. So that's another one. Like, would he go to Detroit? Or would he rather take a little less money and stay with the Lakers or something? But no, I think, everyone, of course, is going to write off the Lakers because they lost game 1. The Lakers haven't lost at home in the playoffs yet. So, it's always, what do they always say? That the series doesn't start until someone wins on the road.
Right.
And, Denver might go up 2-0, and then the Lakers might win both games back in LA. So I think this series is going to go long. The Heat and Celtics, I feel like, is going to be a classic Eastern Conference battle. Both those teams, the Celtics probably are the better team, with Tatum and Brown and Smart, but the Heat with Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about with the Pistons making the right hire at head coach. Eric Spoelstra is, I mean, I don't think he gets the love that he deserves as a head coach because he has taken some, obviously he's had some stacked teams too, but, he's taken this team potentially to the NBA finals and, it's pretty impressive. So I'm watching, obviously that Lakers Nuggets series is going to be good though.
The funny thing about Jokic and the Lakers Nuggets series is it's like a funny subplot that I kind of kept like laughing to myself about as he was just putting on an absolute clinic last night is the fact that Mark Jackson didn't have him on his MVP ballot. It's kind of hilarious, like watching him just light it up and having Mark Jackson have to talk over these highlights like time and time again. No, I don't know. It kind of got swept under the rug that he did that. Listen, I'll be the first to say it. I didn't want to give Jokic the 3 straight MVPs. It's kind of funny when you look back and look at how Embiid really sputtered out in the playoffs, and Jokic is still rolling strong. So it's like, man, maybe we did get that wrong. But no, it's gonna be a fun series. I'm of the belief, and Matt, it sounds like you're not ready to go there yet. I think Game 2 is a must-win for the Lakers. I really do. I think they have such a young team that kind of rides the ebbs and flows of the confidence. They haven't been down 2-0 yet this playoffs. I know they're undefeated at home. They could easily tie it, knot it back up at 2-2. But then you got to win 1 in Denver, and you got to win 2 out of 3. And I'm just not sure that can happen with the altitude, with everything. They definitely did figure something out in the second half of that game. And so that's what makes me confident that I think they will win Game 2. But I think it's a must-win game. Just the way they have to ride these kind of younger players, through their ups and downs. I just think if you get down 2-0 against the number 1 overall seed and you're going into Denver against that raucous crowd, I think they need to win Game 2, in my opinion. I think it's doable. I don't think that's out of the question. As for Embiid, I just got to talk about the Philadelphia Sixers for a second. His post-game comments where he had the gall to say, basically, me and James Harden can't do this all by ourselves.
Right.
I'm so sick of that franchise. Rivers just got the boot. Why is Embiid never get any blame, ever? He didn't show up, man. Did you watch that game? It's like he's almost not out there. It's like you're the MVP, and Tatum is just cramming it to you, showing you that he's the best player on the floor 2 times what you're putting out there the last 2 games of that series. It's just embarrassing. I mean, Harden goes out there, wins 2 games for that team. You have a good support staff around you. It's like sometimes it's like look in the mirror. Like just he doesn't have self-awareness. I feel like that's what a lot of people were commenting on this video. Like, dude, they needed you. They needed you to have a 40-point game. What Tatum did, and you didn't deliver. I'm so sick of that franchise, and it sucks because I was of the belief, like, man, I want to see this team break through because I really don't really like the Celtics. Now I'm happy they got bounced because the entire time Embiid was just never looking in the mirror, and he's just viewing it as everybody else is the problem. I'm not. I'm the MVP. I'm perfect. You can't it's just, I'm so sick of that mindset, and I'm sick of that team, and good for them for getting bounced.
Hard to argue. I mean,
Yeah.
he did. He sucked bad when they needed him the most, and he's the MVP of the league. You got to be better than that, man. It was really weird watching that, especially that second half. How it was like they just gave up.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case, but it sure
Right.
looked like it.
First time ever that an MVP hasn't made the conference finals. So
Wow,
I mean
wow.
that says something. Obviously, it's a regular season award, and he probably was the MVP, but it just I feel like it's one of those things like you have to find the right mix of guys. Like Jokic is probably a player that could about play with anyone, but
yeah.
is Embiid and Harden, do they mix well? Probably not. They both kind of dominate the ball. LeBron talked about that with Austin Reeves. When he saw Austin Reeves the first time, he was like, perfect player for me. And Pelinka, looked and tried to get the right players to go with LeBron James in his game. LeBron and AD, I think, work really well with each other. So Embiid, obviously insanely talented. He's the MVP of the league, but is he going to ever carry a team to the finals and win a championship? I don't know about that. So, because now they're in that point, so they're going to get some coach because he's the MVP. So someone's going to want to go coach there, whether it's Monty Williams or, Sam Cassell, Frank Vogel, who knows, but now they got to try and figure out what they want to do with Harden. They're going to pay him a bunch of money and bring him back. Otherwise, who else are you going to get to go with Embiid? So you almost have to run it back with these two guys and hope that it clicks next year. But
and that's what I mean. It's such a thin line. It's think about how we complain, but it's you look at the Sixers. It's I mean, they're a little bit better off than the Pistons, but it's what do they do? It's they're still light years away from really competing for a title.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Final Four time, NBA. This is the season. This is when we really get tuned in. So
I'm just glad. I'm glad the games that are in Denver start at 8:30.
Me too.
Awesome.
Perfect. That's a perfect time because not to make it about me, but that's around the time that both kids are in bed. So it's kids are in bed. I can sit down, watch this. I'll be honest, I was getting a little tired in the second half still last night, but. So do you still 8:30 tip off? Do you still DVR, Ted, or do you stay up and watch?
Full disclosure, I did DVR the fourth quarter. What the heck? I said I'll check it out in the morning. So it was cool. It was good.
That fourth quarter was good too, and that's the thing.
That's
we've talked about it. But the Lakers were right there. They were down 3, and LeBron missed a couple threes that would have tied the game. So as great as Jokic was, and Murray, he went off too. The Lakers literally were a shot away from potentially winning that game last night. So doesn't matter. They're down 0-1. So, it doesn't, in the end, it doesn't matter, but they're right there.
You're on a slippery slope, Ted, with this DVR. I mean, pretty soon you're going to start DVRing Lions 1:00 games for the next morning, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll talk a little Lions and their schedule coming up. And I just saw that Peacock, you got to watch one of the wild card games on Peacock. Holy crap.
That's going to be crazy. I mean, you already have to watch the Thursday night games, on Amazon Prime.
Exactly.
So
the rock your world.
This is what's happening now. Everyone's got to have 27 different streaming services just to watch whatever you want to watch.
And I will say, what sucks about that is not that you have to have the different, in my opinion, it's not that you have to have these different streaming services. We all kind of have them. Whatever, you got to get Peacock for $5 a month. Not that big of a deal.
Right.
It's the fact that once you're in that app, there's no flipping back and forth.
That's it.
When there's the two games going on, there'll be an NBA game going on or whatever that weekend. You can't be flipping back and forth. You're locked in on what you hope is a good wild card game. That's what's annoying.
Yes,
it is, and just how much longer it takes to get. This sounds like first world problems, but to get out of that app and open up another app and do all this. By the time you get to wherever you wanted to go, you've missed whatever you were trying to get to.
You might as well turn it on and throw the remote in the lockbox. That's right. It's what it's. You are stuck on that channel for 4 hours.
Yeah, your only alternative, I guess, is you could watch it on your computer and then have the TV on what you normally have it on.
Yeah, have a second device set up or something like that.
But that's a pain in the ass too.
Yeah.
All right, enough of that. It's more of a boomer problem, that's for sure. We'll have Prep Spotlight next, right after this. All right, guys, I'm going to jump right into it. We only got a couple more weeks of looking at the area high school boys and girls. And speaking of the boys and girls in track and field, Corunna boys and Owasso girls both finished undefeated in the Flint Metro League meets this season. Both also placed first in the league meet last week at Holly. Trojans got their first conference title since 1998. Peyton Spicer led the way, winning the shot put in the high jump. The Cavaliers won their third straight Metro and 8th conference title in a row. Tarek Bauer won the 100 and 200, anchored the 4x100 winning team. Corunna also dominated the competition with 178.5 points to Clio's 89.5 second place showing. Also in track and field, Ovid Elsie's Alexa Spitzley, who, she's very good in track. She set a new school record in the 800-meter run. Jody Heyer had the previous record set all the way back in 1977. That's 46 years ago, if you're counting. And Spitzley not only now has a school record, but more importantly, she was named valedictorian at Ovid Elsie. So that's very cool honor.
Nice.
Stay tuned. That's going to be kind of interesting to see what Corunna can do when they get to the state meet. You know, I think they legitimately have a shot, and we'll see if they have good weather. We talked about it before. If they have good weather and can put up some personal best times, they could be right there for a title.
That's the thing with track. I mean, it's partly true with any sport, but when you've got the 3 or 4, 5 fastest, guys or girls at the 100, 200, because then they also run the relays. Absolutely. They run them individually. Right. You can almost notch in. All right, we're winning 4 of these events right here. We just got to, try and win a couple of these other ones, and we're going to be perfectly set up. I remember when I was going through, we had one of my good friends on the pod, John Strine, he pole vaulted in college. And so he was really good in high school, and they just basically notch in. He's going to win every event, every meet we go to. He's winning pole vault, notch in however many points you get there. They had a couple other people who were good at other events too. So that's why, I just remember them talking about whenever we go to a meet, you can already pencil us in for this event, because we've got the best athletes at those ones. I feel like that's where Corunna's at right now. So obviously, you never know what happens on meet day, but when you've got athletes like the Bauer twins and some of these other ones, of course. Do they still hold the Mitka at?
Yeah, I was actually just going to talk about that. So, yeah, I mean, that's what's funny about track and field is, we all know, the Tyrone Wheatley story. One man won a state championship.
Yeah.
Which is just hilarious. I wish I could have been there for that day. I mean, one guy probably didn't even have anyone around him, maybe not even a coach, and he's just out there probably warming up himself, and he's going to win the event. That's awesome. Yeah. But no, the Mitka, because of stuff like that in track and field, where basically it's kind of still an individual event with a team kind of border around it. We kind of they made up sort of another championship meet, Mitka as it was called. Yeah. And this is what our team back in the day, 6 years ago, this is what we went hard for. This kind of made up championship is the way I viewed it anyway. Now, I wasn't much of a contributor on this team, so maybe that's because I was kind of on the outside, looking in, just as an unbiased lens, what exactly is this event? It's essentially a made up championship that Corunna did win. We did win it when I was there. But yeah, it's that Mitka thing where it's a little bit more about your actual team depth, right, and less about the individual stars that you could have in track.
Because that is one thing. If you have 3 or 4 of the fastest people in the state, you could win essentially a team, state championship. But you really just have 2 or 3 of the best athletes in the state. So I get the concept behind the Mitka and stuff. I'm pretty sure it was created by Coach Aldrich, wasn't it?
I think you're right. Yeah.
He I'm sure he collaborated maybe with some other people, but I think it was created by him and at Corunna. So kind of cool.
Great coach.
I didn't know if it was still a thing. Is it?
Yeah,
so
it's still I mean, it's a good meet. It's well ran and everything, and there's a good amount of people there, and a lot of the best teams are there. I'm just.
It's still not officially recognized by the MHSAA.
No.
Okay.
No. And by the way, speaking of Corunna, their distance runner Logan Roca, who's outstanding, had a nice career. He won the Fattel Family Scholarship recently. So
nice.
Congratulations to him. Also, last thing on track, Morris girls track team, all 7 of them, 7 girls on the team, won the GAC Blue to 3-peat. So, I mean, that's a story in itself. Awesome. 7 girls win the title. Yeah. Tremendous. In baseball, Langsburg split a doubleheader with Chesaning to improve to 19-5, first place in the CMAC. The Indians in that doubleheader split improved to 17-3 overall, first place in the MMAC. So that's kind of a neat cross rivalry there where they got to play a couple of games. Corunna down to Wasso 7-6 on Braden Bukovic's 7th inning sacrifice fly, and followed that up with a doubleheader sweep over Flint Kersley. Goodrich edged Lake Fenton, giving the Cavaliers a share of the Flint Metro League title with the Blue Devils, both at 12-3. Corunna improved to 18-3 overall. And I guess just hot off the wire, I saw a text this morning. There's some controversy that the Cavaliers weren't invited to the Lansing Diamond Classic. Fill us in on that a little bit, whatever you know, Jared.
Yeah, I know about as much as you. Yeah, apparently what happened was this is a tournament with all the best Lansing area teams. Corunna at 18-3, apparently state ranked, didn't get invited to it. I saw Lanesburg probably is the team that ended up getting their spot. You might know more about the ins and outs of that, but no, basically it just sounds like Corunna feels like they were wronged. Like they should have been competing in this Diamond Classic tournament. Is that something that was around when you went through, Matt?
No, but I remember a couple friends that that I still, stay in touch with. They graduated a couple years after me and they played in it. So I don't know if it was around when I was playing and we just didn't get invited. Maybe that was
around. It was around. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I definitely that's one thing. This is another little sidebar, but at least the few years that I went through, we didn't play in weekend tournaments. And I think I don't know if it's we weren't getting invited or what, but I think that's a cool thing for baseball. I think those weekend tournaments, it might be some long days or whatever, but I think those tournaments are fun. So
yeah. Well, I'll just tell you my opinion, just reading between the lines, and I have no idea if this is accurate or not, but if Corunna was still in the CAAC, they probably would have been invited. They're looked at more as a Flint area team and not a Lansing area team.
Right.
That'd be my guess. I could be wrong, but
that probably has something to do with it.
I would think so.
It doesn't always have to be a conspiracy, right?
Right.
It could just be that they're in the Flint Metro. It is what it is.
That's my
I like to believe the conspiracy theory, man. They're out against the Cavaliers. I like to believe that.
Fair enough, but they are having a heck of a season. Hopefully they can go deep into the tournament. I do see that the team, I'm trying to remember the name now. I'm drawing a blank. The team that ended Orchard Lake St. Mary's streak is ranked number 1 in their division. So that could be tough. That could be tough. Also in softball, Owasso and Perry both won weekend tournaments. Trojans won the Owasso Invite, and Perry ruled the Fulton Invitational. And congrats to Chesaning's Haley Rolfe, set a new school record, blasting her 10th and 11th home runs in a sweep over Mount Morris. And finally, in golf, we haven't talked about that much. Owasso beat Corunna 236 to 291 strokes to take the Phillips Cup at the Owasso Country Club. And I know, Jared, you guys golf, but back in the days when I did golf, I just really enjoyed the Owasso Country Club layout. It's just an old school golf course with a lot of history.
Oh, it's awesome. The thing that I've always loved about it is when you drive by it, you can't tell. Just the changing in undulation throughout the whole course. A lot of hills right along the river. It's awesome. The back nine is awesome. Runs right along the river. A few different really crazy kind of drop offs. The one famous par 3 they have. No, it's a cool course. I mean, Arnold Palmer played there. I mean, the GOAT. What else do you need to know, man?
Right.
It is cool. It's for people that grew up in the area or know the area, it's not a hidden gem, but I almost feel like it is a little bit of a hidden gem, for Michigan golf courses. But I've only played there one time. I've been there for a few wedding receptions, and I've driven around golf carts with coolers of beer. I've only actually played there one time, though.
Well, it's a beautiful course for sure. Like I said, a lot of history. Well, speaking of a lot of history, hashtag since 57. Let's talk a little NFL right after this. All right, guys, the schedule's out. I think we're pretty pumped up after we saw that they open up the season Thursday night at Kansas City. Schedule's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, exciting. And like you said, pumped up for that opening game. I feel like it's going to go one of two ways. So they're starting on Thursday night at Kansas City versus Super Bowl champs. They're getting their rings. They're either going to be distracted, whatever's going on, and the Lions are going to sneak up on them, and the Lions might win, making us all think that we're about to win the Super Bowl. or the Chiefs are going to win by 28 and put us back in our place. It'll be cool to see the Lions opening the season. It's just kind of random. Why Lions and Chiefs on Thursday night to open the season? Seems kind of random, but it's definitely cool. And 3 weeks later, they play the Packers on Thursday night. So another Thursday night game for the Lions. Then, of course, they always have Thanksgiving, which again is against the Packers. So both Packers games this year are on Thursdays, which is kind of random. They've got a Monday night game versus the Raiders. At the end of the season, they have one of those Saturday games versus the Cowboys. So, I mean, the NFL is noticing that the Lions have something going and, putting them in all these primetime spots. And people at work, after the schedule release, I had a few people like, look at the Lions starting off with the Chiefs and, primetime games, saying all this stuff. And I'm like, stop. No hype. I want no hype. I don't want any of this excitement. I want to fly under the radar. I almost want them to lose a close game to the Chiefs. I don't want them to go in there and blow out the Chiefs. Next thing you know, everyone on every sports talk show is talking about the Lions going to make a run. Fly under the radar. Just fly under the radar until Thanksgiving, and that's when we start making our moves.
Might be a little too late for that, sadly. I mean, it's crazy. I never thought I'd see this in my lifetime, unless it was like the Lions won the Super Bowl. Now the next year they're going to open up the season. Dan Patrick had one of the guys on his show that was in kind of the war room and basically explained how it was one of the most heated debates they've had was whether or not the Lions should open up the season for the NFL. And basically what they said was they loved how they showed up in primetime against the Packers last week of the season. So at least that's one silver lining from the end of that season where, we missed the playoffs, but I guess it kind of got us this opening day game against the Chiefs. I mean, we've seen it happen before. I mean, if you remember the Chiefs blowing out the Patriots way back when, you can kind of catch those teams that come off the Super Bowl kind of sleeping week one. Right. I mean, if we were going to play the Chiefs, I'd want it to be as early in the season as it possibly can before they kind of wake up from their Super Bowl slumber. It'll be fun to see. The only way that this is a negative for the Lions if they get absolutely blown out, which I don't think will happen. I think they're going to come in playing inspired. It's crazy to think, what we were hoping we were going to see with the Pistons where all the eyes were on Detroit. It's like that in the NFL. So I guess we can at least take that and appreciate it. As for the rest of the schedule, I mean, my favorite game, Monday Night Football. I love Buck. I love Aikman. I can't wait to watch the Lions. Hopefully that's a Manning cast day where you can flip back and forth. Or let's say they get a big win against the Raiders. Ted can watch Buck and Aikman on Monday night, and then Tuesday morning he can flip over to the Manning cast and watch that on DVR. He's already got that planned.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And then on Thanksgiving, I love the classic just Packers matchup. I love it. That'd be the team I think they should play every single year on Thanksgiving, either them
Packers or the Bears.
Yeah,
the Bears.
Yeah.
100%. So I love that game. And then finally, I mean, I love playing the Cowboys. Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, I don't care. I just love playing the Cowboys. That'll be a fun game near the end of the season to kind of really realize where this team's at, hopefully before we're heading into the playoffs. So the division's on the line. I mean, it's cool that we're going to get tested outside of that and see teams like Kansas City, earlier in the season. So let's say we do make the playoffs, the Lions aren't going to be scared of these teams. They're going to realize they can play with them. Let's just hope it wasn't all for nothing. We have our hopes as high as they've ever been. Let's just hope that they kind of give us something to root for.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get what Matt's saying about flying under the radar, but when it's all said and done, the way they finished last year, the excitement that we've seen, I'm all on board. I mean, I got a guy I work with, right? He's a big Lion fan too. As soon as he saw the schedule, he bought season tickets and he's already got his hotel room and tickets. He's going to Kansas City for that Thursday night game. Now that's buying into the Kool-Aid right there, man. But I'm kind of on the mindset. Why not? I'm 100% on board. I'm going to be completely optimistic until they break my heart. I'm all in, man, all in. And I'm hoping that this is the year. And I told you guys this before. I wasn't being facetious. I'm going to start making some plans for Vegas, whether the Lions make it or not. I'm thinking about going there and checking out the Super Bowl atmosphere, and with the fingers crossed that the Lions can get there. You never know. It's possible.
You never know. And, what's the bar? Win in the division? When you're saying like this might be the year.
Right.
Win a playoff game? Like, what are we talking about? Like,
the bar is getting to the Super Bowl.
Right. The bar is the Super Bowl. That's setting it pretty high. To me,
Maybe,
if they can win the division and get to the playoffs, obviously once you get there, you know, you want to win and you don't want to lose in the playoffs. But to me, like that would be what would make me happy. Win the division with Rodgers out of there now. You know, it looks like the Lions might be the favorite. Maybe, you know, maybe the Vikings would be the favorite to win the division. Get to the playoffs. That's what I want to see. And then obviously you never know what happens when you get to the playoffs.
That's true.
Setting the bar at the Super Bowl. That might be pretty high, but you never know.
What year would you do it though?
That's lunacy.
Okay, get to the playoffs, but
listen, I think that, hey, could it happen? Yeah. That's not, I mean, this team hasn't won a playoff game in my life, man. Let's just start with that. Let's start with that. And if they do that, they've never done it. That's a great season.
So you'd be happy with the season if they made the playoffs and then lost their first game in the playoffs?
No, win a playoff game. That's my barometer. If you win a playoff game, I can't complain. And we clip this off so that let's say they lose a heartbreaker, you know, against the Eagles or something, round 2 of the playoffs. No, if you win a playoff game, it was a great season.
Okay, let's say they do that. So you're under the assumption, okay, that they keep that momentum going, and then maybe next year make that next move to go to the Super Bowl. Is that the thought process?
As long as you're moving forward, right. I mean, look at the Sixers, man. I mean, that's why this getting out of the semifinals was such a big Eastern Conference semifinals was such a big deal to them, dude. That's what they've done the last 3 years. Right. If they could have just taken a step to the Eastern Finals, and then let's say they lost that to the Heat, at least there's a little bit of a buffer. I don't know if Doc Rivers is getting fired the very next day if that happens. Right. So if the Lions win a playoff game this year, and then, you know, 2 years down the road, if they win 2 playoff games, as long as they keep kind of building, then I don't think you can view it as a negative season.
Well, then, okay. I don't know. I have a hard time with that just because you only get so many chances and you don't know what's going to happen from year to year. You don't know the core players are going to still be moving forward and improving. We've seen teams make the Super Bowl from a year before not being in the playoffs. It's happened. And I guess my hopes are just higher. I'm putting it out there. It's not going to be a failure of a season if they miss out on the Super Bowl, but I think that's got to be what we got to be looking at. I mean, this team right now, they showed it last year. They can play with anybody.
Yeah, I think the goal for any team, even no matter who you are, if you're the Bears, if you're the Lions, if you're the Chiefs again, the goal is to win the Super Bowl. I think that's the goal for everyone. I guess what I'm saying is like what I would see as like a good season, I guess, winning the division, get to the playoffs, because kind of like what Jared's talking about, you know, the Sixers, now they've got no head coach and they don't know what they're going to do with Harden. You know, what are they going to do with this whole process? They needed to get to that next step, conference finals, maybe get to the finals. That's, I feel like, what the Lions need to build on. Yeah, awesome. Go to the Super Bowl. Heck yeah. But like if they want to start really luring in some big name free agents, I think that's the building block type stuff. If they miss the playoffs again this year after getting all these primetime games, getting all this hype, I think that's where people will start to maybe be like, all right, well, are the Lions ever going to do it? Because like you said, Ted, this team is good. They can play with anyone. Right. So there's no reason they should not be in the playoffs this year. So get to the playoffs, show teams Campbell can coach, show teams that, you know, they made the right draft picks with, you know, all the guys that they've picked in the last couple of years. Lure in some big name free agents, and then we're legitimate, you know, Super Bowl contenders.
Sure.
But well, I'll be honest. I'm just going to say something that I've been thinking about ever since the schedule dropped. I'm worried about the start of the year. Obviously at Kansas City, maybe the Lions have a 25% chance to win that game. Right. Then Seattle, we know Seattle's good. And then you go from there, you know, obviously it's Atlanta week 3. I'm not too worried about them, but then you're at Green Bay week 4, Thursday Night Football. Place is going to be on fire. And then week 5 versus Carolina, who I think is going to be a team that surprises a lot of people this year. They added Young, but I mean, if we remember last year, they ran over the Lions and they really weren't that bad of a team. I worry about a bad start kind of derailing this whole season. You guys know how important I think that is, where if you have a little bit of an easy schedule to start the year, I think the team, like a young team like the Lions, can build off that confidence. Let's hope that they're legit, because the schedule is not doing them any favors, especially out the gate.
It's tough. I mean, they started off slow last year and obviously finished much better. But right, you don't want to kill the confidence early on. I like going to Green Bay earlier in the year, that as opposed to going in December when it's 20 degrees and snowing and all that, and you get Jordan Love maybe before they figure out how to like call offense for
Right.
him, stuff like that. And you get Bryce Young early in his career. So maybe you're catching some of these young quarterbacks, even Desmond Ridder, with the Falcons. He's going to be the, first full-time starter. So they're getting some of these quarterbacks early in the season, early in their careers as starters. That might help. But hey, either way, you got to win the games on your schedule, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope they stay healthy, and
that's a big part.
Yeah, I'm definitely very optimistic. So we'll see what happens.
The big one is Goff. Goff has to stay healthy. I know they, drafted Hendon Hooker, but he's not going to be ready. So if Goff goes down, then
all bets off.
All bets are off, basically.
Speaking of the NFL, did you guys see the Washington Commanders sold for over $6 billion? Are we in the wrong business or what? $6 billion with a B.
Snyder, when he bought it, back, whenever 20 years ago or whenever it was, I saw he bought it for basically like $700,000-$800,000 and now just sold it for over $6 billion. Think about that return on investment.
Yeah,
that's pretty good, especially with all the, a lot of them are allegations. I guess it seems like a lot of it is true. Seems like a pretty shitty person, pretty bad owner, didn't treat people well. All the stuff that went on behind the scenes with female employees and other employees, so to think that someone that ran the team like that is getting basically rewarded by making that much money off his purchase, it kind of feels a little dirty. But yeah, wrong business. Yeah, too bad we couldn't pool our money and buy a professional sports franchise. It's just crazy to think like Washington, they haven't been good in so long and they're still worth over $6 billion.
Amazing.
It's just insane.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a little bit of a sleeping giant of a franchise. I mean, they're in Washington, D.C. I feel like they're on the brink of getting a new stadium. If they just go back to the football team instead of the Commanders, I think Commanders is the worst team name in all of sports.
Yeah.
I think they got something brewing, man. If they just go back to what it was, which is the football team. Awesome name, and they got rid of it.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a lot of dough for sure. By the way, I want a guy from my generation, Joe Cap. I don't know if you guys even know who Joe Cap is. You ever heard of him? He was a quarterback in the NFL. He didn't have a lot of talent, but he knew how to win. He's one of these guys that it's a rarity. He won the Rose Bowl, he won the Grey Cup, and he took Minnesota's Vikings to the Super Bowl. Not many people could make that claim, and he died at 85. And he was one of these guys. He was a lunch bucket kind of quarterback, kind of like Bill Kilmer with Washington at the time. And you don't see these kind of quarterbacks anymore that they're like Bobby Lane. You go out drinking the night before a game and you play all hungover and put up big numbers. But Joe Cap from my era. Rest in peace, Joe. All right, let's just have a short little Tedertainment Tonight right after this. All right, guys, I know, Matt, you asked about it, so I'll just throw it out there. It kind of falls into the classic movies, maybe. It's old enough, a 1999 movie, For the Love of the Game. Baseball movie with Kevin Costner. I don't know if either one of you have seen it. I've got a few thoughts on it. I would say, being a Detroit fan, he was a 40-year-old pitcher for the Tigers in the movie, winding down his career. It was really more of a kind of a love story, I think, than a baseball story, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, love story, or even just someone coming to the end of their career, realizing that they need to move on to the next chapter. It wasn't as much a baseball movie. It was the love story and the mortality side of people realizing that they need to hang up the cleats, as they say.
Yep. And, his love interest in it, Kelly Preston, who was John Travolta's wife before she unfortunately passed away of cancer. She was in her prime at the time. So a couple good things there with actors. Who's J.K.? Is it J.K. Rollins from Detroit? Yeah. He played the manager. So
isn't it J.K. Simmons?
That's Simmons. J.K. Simmons. Yep. It had all the elements. And the only reason I really liked the movie was because it was the Detroit Tigers featured prominently, and Costner can play. He can play a pitcher. He can play a baseball player. He doesn't look like he's a wimpy player. He knows how to throw the ball. But other than that, the movie wasn't all that great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
Plot was
quite a turn at the end there. that movie is definitely, I think Tigers fans hold it in a higher regard because, like you said, it's just the fact that he's on the Detroit Tigers. Costner, man, I didn't realize that after watching Field of Dreams, I kind of was looking at the IMDb pages when I was watching that movie. Dude, he's in like 50 different sports movies, most notably baseball. That's kind of where his bread is buttered. I noticed, but that's
Did you watch For Love of the Game?
My mom loves that movie, so I've seen it parts, but I don't think I've ever sat down and really. He's kind of throwing like a perfect game during it. Is that right?
Yeah. That kind of ties it all in. Yeah.
So no, I've seen parts. My quick movie review, Air, the movie. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, gave it a watch. Good flick. You don't hear from Michael Jordan the whole time, which is kind of an interesting little wrinkle where it is obviously the key person they're selling, the whole Nike brand on is his mom. I thought the performances were good. I mean, if this was a movie with kind of B-list actors and it didn't have Matt Damon, Bateman, Affleck, Viola Davis, I think it's just a C movie, but their performances definitely kind of take it up a notch. And I mean, I can't ever complain. I mean, it's free on Prime. You get to watch it. I can't complain with a free movie like that with whatever wasn't perfect about it, but the music was awesome. Kind of felt like very upbeat and almost like a music video when you're watching it. I thought it was good. I mean, the graphics were great. I mean, Ben Affleck really showing that he is one of the top kind of directors in this day and age, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I thought it was a good flick.
Yeah, we've wanted to watch it the last few nights, but there's either been basketball or whatever other stuff going on. So, but I do want to watch it because I've heard it's good, and like you said, the cast and then the story is interesting enough. But I'm surprised on Ted not liking For Love of the Game. I'm going to be honest. I know it's not like it's not like an Academy Award winning movie or something like that, but. Honestly, I like it. It's one of my favorite. I like Field of Dreams a lot and Bull Durham. It's one of my favorite Costner movies. The Tigers thing, makes it kind of fun. Like, if he was playing for the Red Sox, maybe that would take it down a notch. It's cool. I actually have like the jersey he was wearing. I have it with number 14 Chapel. It's like a legit. It's actually stitched. It's like an authentic, legit jersey.
Nice.
I wore it. I went to a game at Yankee Stadium, the cathedral that is Yankee Stadium. They say that in the movie. I wore it one time and like got a picture. So I don't know. Maybe it holds a sentimental place in my heart or whatever. But I like the movie a lot. I like the baseball part is cool. I like the story part of it a little more, I guess. Of him realizing he's at the end of his baseball road, I guess, and wanting to move on and stuff like that, and the love story of it. Maybe I like rom-coms. Not that that's like a rom-com, but it kind of falls more into that than a sports movie. So I'm not giving it like a 3 out of 3 on the 3-point podcast scale, but I personally would give it I'd give it like a 2.7, a solid 2.8. I like the movie a lot. Like you said, Costner playing baseball, he sells it well. He looks like he could actually be a baseball player.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 2.3. But let me ask you this: you mentioned the 3 Costner baseball movies, Bull Durham and Field of Dreams. Do you put For the Love of the Game third out of those?
It'd probably be my third out of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because Bull Durham's just a classic, and then Field of Dreams is the ultimate classic baseball movie.
I tell you what, man, Costner has had a stranglehold on this segment for I think the last year. I feel like he somehow comes up in it every week, man. There's something new with Costner.
Speaking of that, I did see, I know we've talked about Yellowstone a lot. I did see that he will not come back to Yellowstone after this current season because they're kind of in like a hiatus right now.
Yeah.
And they're going to finish the current season, at some point. I think this summer, is when it's coming back. But I don't know if you guys saw that. He's done with Yellowstone after this season finishes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure I saw that the series is still going to go.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a little bit of a spinoff. So I'm very curious.
Yeah.
I know we said that the series has kind of started to tail off a little bit, but I'm curious to see how they wrap it up. Like, I don't think that they would kill him off and like have the ranch be sold, to the state or something like that. Or like, is Casey going to take over? Maybe he does die and Casey takes over the ranch. Yeah. I'm very curious to see how they kind of tie off his character.
I will say I'm more curious to see where it goes when he's gone. That makes me a little bit more intrigued to maybe throw it back on the TV screen.
Mm-hmm.
After we remember the whole tree hugger kind of fiasco. And that's what I tapped out. But no, I'm down to see where it goes. I think that what I would do is if I was them, I just kill them off, man. Give yourself give us a great, kind of final episode where people remember it. Like, wow, they really killed that guy. And then just have Jamie or Casey or whoever kind of take over the reins and
you don't want Jamie. You don't want Jamie to take it over.
No, but you could see the fight between him and Beth, though, huh?
Right.
It could be good. I also heard the name floated out there. I don't know if it's true or is really McConaughey. Yeah.
So I'd be curious, like, how they would write that in. Does he come in and just buy the ranch? Is he some like long lost cousin that comes back into the family or something like that? That could be cool. Yeah. But the only thing with that would be McConaughey is such a big, character. You'd almost have to make it a different show. If you tried to like just plug him in and keep the show going with him as Kevin Costner, it'd almost be like, all right, this is a little too much. You'd almost have to like spin the show off.
Right.
Yeah, I'd rather him have his own show, story, whether it's, set in the 1980s or whatever. I don't know when it would. Maybe it's a prequel type thing like we've seen in the past. I'd rather him have his own kind of show, started from scratch. And that's what I would do.
Yeah. Totally off topic, but since we're talking about McConaughey, did either of you see True Detective with him and Woody Harrelson?
No, that's another show. I really want, because those two names right there. I know.
Awesome.
And that show is one of those where each season is almost like a different show.
It is different. Yeah. But season one was McConaughey and Harrelson.
And that's what I've heard. It's the best, right? Season one is awesome. And it really kind of jumps off a cliff after that. No, I actually thought like I should watch that because those are two of my guys, man. Harrelson and McConaughey.
Yeah. I'd give that a 3 out of 3 right there. So
speaking of Woody Harrelson, man, we're jumping all over. Speaking of Woody Harrelson, I'm curious to hear what Jared has to say about the White Men Can't Jump remake that's happening with your guy Jack Harlow. Are you in on it? It's just streaming on Hulu.
Is it out?
Is that a movie that they should not have redone? Like, what are they doing?
Looks horrible. Looks so bad. Jack Harlow. So where I'm at with Jack Harlow, I was kind of first to his, have you guys ever been like where you're sort of first to somebody? And like he had a couple, not really that many hit songs out, was kind of right before he sort of took off with What's Poppin' was his big song. Yeah. I liked him. Then he took off. Then he became everywhere, everything. Everyone's loving him. Like the music's not as good. He had one kind of, his best song was his first song. I'm out on him, man. And now it's like you're playing Woody Harrelson. He thinks he's like some hooper. He looks horrible. Looks like he can't even shoot a basketball. And now he's supposed to take the reins of this movie where the basketball scenes are incredible. It looks so bad. Like it looks like a movie I might make it only about 10 minutes into. That's what it looks like. But I think I got to do for this pod. I have to do the service. I have to watch it and come back with what it is because it looks like something that I'll end up laughing like it's such a piece of garbage that I'll just laugh.
Go ahead and watch it because I am not watching that movie. the only way I'm watching that is if it happens to be on in the background somewhere or something. But I have no interest in watching that movie.
No, it looks bad. I don't blame you, man. It looks.
What about Ted? Did you like the original? Like,
I thought the original was tremendous. I thought Harrelson and Snipes pulled it off, especially Harrelson. I thought he looked like he could play ball. And Rosie Perez, she was perfect in it. I mean, it was a great movie. Yeah, so it's gonna be tough to even try to compete with that one, in my viewpoint.
Yeah.
All right, boys.
Grab, man.
Hey, we did it.
That's what it is. I see they're making their rounds. They're on all the talk shows. They were on. Where did I see them? They were on. I think they were on ESPN doing the car wash, and so they're making their money. Good for them. They're hustling, and it's also like I don't even know the name of the dude who's playing Wesley Snipes' character. No. So you're obviously Jack Harlow is a big name right now. He's not like a big actor necessarily, but he is a big name. How are you not having someone else who's playing Wesley Snipes' character, someone who people actually know?
Right.
Like it's like how do you go from Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes to these dudes?
I don't think this movie's going to be like, I just think it's a low budget. Right. I mean, even Harlow, it's like really, he's not that big of a star. I don't think my dad even knows who that is. Right. Ted, do you even know who that is? Really?
Vaguely, just from you talking about him. I don't tune into his music.
Yeah. So I think I just everything about this movie says this is going to get like a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 1.3 on the 3-point pod scale.
Exactly.
If that.
Hey, I got one final thing since we're talking music and whatnot. I just popped into my mind because I'm considering going to a concert at Ford Field on July 15th. And I just
Miley Cyrus.
No, but sort of. The thought that came to my mind was prices of tickets just are crazy out there right now.
Outrageous.
What's the max you would spend to see somebody? Is there anybody that you'd want to go see that you'd spend, big money on?
I'm curious what Jared would say about this. So Morgan Wallen is like the biggest name in country music right now. And when we're coming back to Michigan at the end of June, and he's actually, if he's kind of postponed his tour right now, but if he's back, he's supposed to be in Detroit the weekend that we're getting back.
Oh.
And one of his opening acts is Bailey Zimmerman. And I like him a lot too. So I was like, oh, that's kind of perfect. We're going to be in Michigan, but yeah, tickets, and it's at Ford Field. Tickets were like, I want to say they're over $200 for sure. And that's for up. That's not even floor seats. And, going with my wife, so we'd have to buy two. So we're dropping $500, $600, $700 to go see this. And I don't know if I would do that. So to answer your question, you start going over $200, that starts to creep into
So how about $500 an evening? So if you could do it all for $500.
If it was going to be like, a couple friends are going and, it's going to be like a fun night.
Yeah.
And it was someone I really wanted to see. Yeah.
Okay.
That might be where it starts. That might be the ceiling though.
That's the line right there. $500. When you think about it, still that's a lot of money for one night. Right.
Right. But I like concerts a lot. And I know you do too, Ted. So like I said, if it was someone I really wanted to see, like I said, with Morgan Wallen and the guy that's opening for him, I was like, that show would actually be really good. But
I was curious about that because that's kind of the line I look at, too. I mean, we saw Billy Joel at Comerica Park, and I think that was like $225 a ticket. And by the time you buy your drinks and everything else, park and all that, you got a $500 plus night. But that's about the line. It's got to be a superstar for me to do that. Now, for me,
location's a big thing to me too. I don't want to go see a show at Ford Field. I know that's where the biggest people go. It just it's a bummer. But like something like Billy Joel at Comerica Park, that sounds awesome. I mean, $225, it really doesn't sound like a bad deal for that.
Right.
So it's a instance by instance basis. I would love to see Luke Combs. I'm not gonna go see him at Ford Field. Same thing. Right. Wallen, I like his music. I'd go see him. I don't want to see him at Ford Field. So I'm a big outdoor venue guy.
I'm 100% agree with you, but I would probably go to Ford Field just mainly, the sound's going to be okay. They've got it all figured out. They got the big screens, so they got that figured out. You'd be really going for the fact that you're going to soak up the atmosphere and enjoy a concert, right? I mean, it's not like you're going to get, like I had first row seats for Bob Seger. I mean, that's never going to happen again. And the Billy Joel concert at Comerica was a perfect evening. We were 11 rows back. It was like, you have an epiphany when you go to that kind of thing. And it's just, you're sitting there going, life doesn't get any better than this. You know what I mean?
So who was the show you're looking at?
I was going to say, so who's the one you were looking at?
I was holding off. Ed Sheeran. I was thinking about going to see Ed Sheeran.
Nice. I would have never guessed that in a million guesses that's who you were thinking of.
So that would be one for me. I like Ed Sheeran, and he's really good. So I bet his concerts would be good, but is he one that I would pay $100 for? Personally, no, because I'm not that big of an Ed Sheeran fan.
Right.
Now, say he was playing at some outdoor venue, $50 for, of course. But
well, that's the thing too. I'm looking, I like, you could go to Ford Field and sit way up in the nosebleeds and you could get in, and you can get in for under $100. You could get a seat right now, $64. Now it's so far away from the action. I don't think I'm going to go that route, but I'm looking maybe in the 150 range, and they're not bad. So I just want to throw that out. Ed Sheeran.
It'd be a good show too. And like you said, being at a concert is just a good time anyway. So
Saturday night too, man. Right. Saturday night in the D.
Yeah.
So,
that'd be a night of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, you just never know where this podcast is going to go, do you? It just goes all over the place. We have fun with it. But let's wrap it up.
But you always know it's going to come back to Kevin Costner in one way or another.
Kevin Costner,
Kevin Costner and the Detroit Lions are Super Bowl champions of 2024. It's got a nice ring to it.
It does.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
Ted in Vegas, just living up Vegas for the Super Bowl.
I'm going to try and see what I can do is maybe get some arrangements at one of the hotels out there. I'm thinking the D. They ought to be a sponsor on the podcast. Let's just do a trade out.
Yeah.
Free room for the Super Bowl
Why
weekend.
don't you go pay it off with your normal like $10 over bet you place every year on the Lions win total?
Has that come out yet? Their win total?
No, I'm sure it is. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I can see if I can find it here.
I'll bet it would be. I'm just going to guess. I'll bet their win total somewhere between 9.5 to 10.
I was going to say 9.5. I bet is where it's at. But
so while
which I would again, yeah, I would take the over on that.
I probably would too.
But,
all right. Well, while you look that up, I just want to remind people this has been the 3 Point Podcast presented by Memorial Healthcare's Now Community Wellness Center and Skymint Cannabis. Skymint Cannabis, farm to stash, grown right here in the Great Lakes State, over 20 locations and counting in Michigan. Check out Michigan's best bundles, deals on flowers, vapes, pre-rolls. I just saw they had $3 pre-rolls, man. Is that a good deal?
I mean, I don't know how it can't be. I mean, that's nothing, man. For McDonald's. It is 9.5. It is 9.5. So you guys
nailed it. Perfect. Ounces as low as 49. Gift cards are available, and enjoy some when you go watch some Lions games for sure.
there you go.
Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center, they got a lot going on. If you want to check out some flexibility training, they got tickets for sale at the front desk, included your membership, use of the Sky Track, locker rooms, private showers, everything that goes on there. For more details, follow and like them on Facebook at Memorial Wellness Center, or go online at memorialhealthcare.org. Also want to thank our local folks, AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, CR Auction, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Follow us on the socials at 3 Point Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We keep growing that as we go along. And if you got comments, I know I'll just send a shout out to Craig. He's enjoying the Jonas Brothers' latest album. So is that what they're called nowadays? Albums?
Sure, still albums, but he's all about that album. I love it though.
Yep, he loves his Joe Bros. Everybody, we'll check in with you next time. Peace and love. Be kind. Thanks for listening.